What's up, everyone? So I got another reaction for you. This one's a little bit different than the last one, different from the last one. I'm trying to bring you guys some new content, but what I got is Anthony Mackie, and he was recently on the Pivot podcast. Most of you will know Anthony Mackie as the new Captain America, and a lot of you will remember his initial role. I think the first time we saw him on a big screen was the role of Papa Doc in 8 Mile, the Eminem film. So he's been around for quite some time, about 20 plus years in this industry, but he's got some interesting thoughts on his parenting, his success along with his parenting. So I want to get into it. You're not going to see or hear from me until the end of this little segment that I have plays, but I still want to get your thoughts. I will share mine. So let's get into it.
Because I try to keep my boys outside of it. Like, I don't want my boys affected by it or even acknowledge the idea of what Hollywood is and what it means to the general populace. Because I want them to find their own path. And we're blessed. Like, we're put in a position where we can afford our kids the best. Mm-hmm. You know, we're in a position where our grandkids, our great-grandkids will be provided for. You know, we weren't like that.
Right.
You know, I know on the West Bank you wasn't like that.
No doubt.
Yeah, y'all ate, Vienna sausages and poke and beans, you know?
I did, though.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
but that's
up.
real.
Yeah.
You know, that's where we came from. I keep my boys humble. Like, my boys have never had a pair of Jordans. You know, my boys don't do all that internet fly shit. I'm like, your kids. And no, I don't give a fuck. I could be the biggest star in the world. Do not let me catch you being stupid. Mm-hmm. Do not. And my oldest gets it. My 15-year-old, he tells the other ones, he's like, yo, don't make dad mad. Because once you get one that's right, he gonna straighten the other ones out. Mm-hmm. So it's just that thing of, in the past 20 years, we've been living through the death of the American male. They have literally killed masculinity in our homes and our communities for one reason or another. But I raised my boys to be young men. And however you feel about that, you feel about that. Right. But my boys will always be respectful. They will always say, yes, sir, yes, ma'am. No, sir, no, ma'am. They will always say thank you. They will always open the door for a lady. They will always make sure that their mother is taken care and provided for. They will always be men. And that's always since they were 2 years old. Every time I left for a job, I tell my 15-year-old, you're the man of the house. Mm. You make sure these doors are locked every night, this alarm is on, you text me or you call me every night before you go to bed and you wake up.
I love that.
Because we're men. If I'm not there to protect, he got to be there to protect. Because you can have all the money in the world, motherfucker climb through the window, that money means nothing. Right. You can have all the celebrity in the world, motherfucker jump through the door, that celebrity means nothing. Yeah. So you got to have a little guard in there, and so for me, it's always that idea of American masculinity is very different. You feel it when you go to Europe. Like, you see these and you're like, could bust your ass, boy. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? You go to Europe.
Tight ass pants.
Yeah, tight ass pants. Motherfucker, good, boy, you better lotion your ankle. Like, you feel it when you go to Europe. Even when I was just in Kenya and I was walking around, I'm like, yeah. Dude was like, you ain't from here. Like, nah. Yeah, I could tell. I know you can. I could tell I ain't from here. You know what I mean? It's just that American male masculinity is something I think is very important for boys. Because now our little boys are afraid to fail, so they don't try. You know what I mean? When we were kids, we did tackle drills. We would run face first into each other.
We just talked about it.
They shot.
Dudes don't even talk to a woman face to face no more.
They don't know how no more. Because, women they are so mean and so angry. Bruh, I saw this, my nephew was talking to this girl. Oh my God, dude, she just killed him. I mean, he was like, excuse me, how you doing? She goes, ugh. How do you come back from that? He just walked over to me. I gave him his beer. I was like, there you go, bro. That didn't happen. Let's start over.
When you see the cup out, I'm going to do some talking because that's a lot to unpack. So he initially started off talking about keeping his kids, kind of separate from the Hollywood lifestyle. And I think that that's a really smart thing for a parent to do, especially one who knows the industry, knows how these things work, and can really see a lot of things that a lot of other parents don't, who are willing to push their kids into Hollywood and really not understand kind of what can be out there waiting for them. And that can be whether we've seen predatory movie directors, whether it's predatory for them physically or just predatory on their money, things like that. A lot of times we get blinded by the goal, and we don't take the time to assess all of the trappings and pitfalls before it gets to it. So it's good that these boys have a responsible father in their lives, allowing them to find their own path as well. So it's not, I'm an actor, so you have to be that too, or I'm an athlete, or I'm in politics, or I'm a firefighter. A lot of times you'll see that. Now, if people follow in the footsteps of those who came before them in their family because they respect it and things like that, that's great, but you shouldn't be forced into something if that's not what you are passionate about. At least, the least we can try to do is find something we enjoy closest to our work, so we enjoy it enough to go and say, I'm making a difference, I like the purpose that I have, and it brings me fulfillment. I think that that's an important piece to this. He also spoke about humility and how his boys didn't have like a pair of Jordans. For those of you who don't know, Michael Jordan, basketball player, has a very famous sneaker line, and they cost a lot of money. This man could easily afford those. But what he's doing is he's setting his kids up to understand that there's going to be things that they're going to have to earn, and everything doesn't have to be high end just because you make money. He's also showing, this shows financial responsibility. This shows just because you have it doesn't mean you have to spend it or you have to go get it. So he's really setting them up with some strong values in my estimation. And to not be on the internet doing what he called the fly-ish, which is kids showing off. And there's a famous football player. He's now retired, Michael Irvin, and he had a highly successful career. He's in the Hall of Fame, and his son is a rapper, but he's out there rapping about things that people who didn't have his entitlements and privileges growing up, he's rapping about the same things, like the street life, hood life, and it's not him because that's not how he grew up, but he's still talking about it. And Michael Irvin actually got on and told his son, like, I think it was like on national TV.
Running around. I got a son. He raps. His rap name is Tut Tarantino. If you ever listen to some of his raps, I'm like, oh my God, where does this come from, son? You grew up in a gated community your whole life.
Those aren't hard times. Now, he may have had hard times in other areas, relationship with his father, things like that. But as far as the geographic location, the ability to have money and resources around him, he didn't grow up in that sort of poverty era. And that's what Michael Irvin was talking about, and this is what Anthony Mackie's also talking about. Don't be showing out when it comes to these sort of things, because you paint a target on your back, and that's not a good place to be. You can already have people, trying to take shots at you just because your father's famous or you're famous. So don't add to it by trying to show off things that you, in a lot of cases, have not earned. So just one of those things that I think these are great lessons. He also spoke about the death of the American male. And this is something I've been talking about easily since the 90s. And for me, it was seeing fathers in commercials just being played as complete buffoons. Paunchy, unshaven, uncoordinated, just dismantled in the mind, don't have, their thoughts together collective. And there's the wife. She's thin, she's neat, she's calm, level, she's everything he's not. He's almost like the extra child. And I get why, because commercials generally have been geared towards women who historically have been the stay-at-home consumer to run the house. But at some point, if she's at home being able to run the house without working, that man can't be that big of an idiot to where he is doing that at home, but is completely polished and put together in the real world. The other one that I had a real issue with, the death of American male, like Anthony's talking to, was Procter & Gamble. I want to say it was 2008 or 2012. Their whole campaign for Olympic athletes was "Thanks, Mom." And I couldn't have been more just put off by that notion. Are you telling me that every athlete out there did this without a man in their lives? And it doesn't have to always be the father. The father could be passed on. It doesn't mean always incarcerated or just ran off. And sometimes running off means he was ran off by the legal system and the mother, not that he just abandoned the circumstance. But I digress. Coaches, mentors, managers, you name it, can be male figures that are father figure like. But they didn't bother to show that at all. It was all "Thanks, Mom." It does a real injustice to the psyche of a society already riddled with divorce and broken homes. So that's my thought on that. I didn't think that that was a great place to be, but I've definitely spoken to this for some time and will continue to. He also spoke about raising his sons and how he raises his sons. How you feel about it is how you're going to feel about it. But it sounds like he's raising them in a very traditional manner. You know, get out of line, to respect people, say your thank yous, your pleases, all of that. There's nothing wrong with that. Holding doors, I believe he mentioned. And even for his 15-year-old to be the man of the house when he's gone. Now, I know a lot of people will think, well, he's not the adult, the mother is. But there's a very good chance that in his example, somebody breaks in or things like that. A 15-year-old boy is stronger than a fully adult woman. There's a great chance of that. And Anthony Mackie seems like he's a very, fit guy. I believe he's tall, things like that. I don't know what the son is like, but I don't think he would put that on his son if he didn't think his son was capable of doing those things. Again, in my estimation, he's teaching his son to be able to do these things when he gets to an age and a stage where that's going to be something that he's going to need to do for his family, being the man of the house. American masculinity. It's been labeled as toxic. Just a side note. Toxic masculinity came from a study done in the 90s, and it was basically around males in prison. And it was men who would react the most egregious way possible to the smallest thing. So you scuff my shoe, I'm going to stab you. Or immediate violence. There was no build up to it. There was no thought process. That's what toxic is. But we've taken that and tried to apply that to a person who doesn't agree, or a person who has by right gets to work out their issues as well. We're allowed to grow and be in these areas as well that aren't always perfect, but we get labeled toxic for it. And that's a very, very dangerous sentiment. It's a big lie in a lot of ways. He spoke to going to other countries and seeing the difference between himself and other males. I think part of that is that a guy like Anthony Mackie, who has a lot of fame, a lot of money, a lot of power, he can go any place, even in America, and he's still going to have that level up on a lot of people. So that's possible. But I've never traveled internationally like that. So maybe there is that, but I think when people are already looking up to you, it skews the difference between you and them. Now, I don't think I would go to like Europe or some other part of the world and try to impose that, but maybe that's where, and not saying that Anthony's doing it, but maybe that's where the ugly American stereotype and stigma had come from going to other countries and just knowing like I can dominate you. Because we have a supremacist mindset in this country that we're number one, USA number one. We've grown up believing that. And we've been told that through history books. We've been told that in a lot of different areas. So whether it's through war, the wars that, we're said to have won, starting with just the American Revolution, and that builds into our laws and legislations on things like guns and violence, and what other countries don't have, we seem to in a lot of areas. So these aren't knocks on anything, but it can certainly paint a picture as to how we are, why the way we are. So just one of those things. But sports, we have national sports leagues like basketball, like football, like baseball, but we call ourselves world champions. And when you look at sports like track, tennis, golf, gymnastics, yes, there's nationals, but then you have things like the Olympics. You have other areas to where you are crowned at. Yes, do we have supreme athletes, probably some of the best in the world at these sports? Yes, but the fact of the matter is we don't play other places in the world, and upsets happen. Anything can happen on any given day. So even though you see in the Olympics something like American basketball will dominate, we still, that's where you call yourself a world champion. But it all goes back to my point is this is where the American masculinity mindset certainly can come from. And so it's not that he's out of line for that. I don't disagree with a lot of, his thoughts on we walk with a certain bravado at times. And in this environment, sometimes you need to. You have to think logically, but you also have to know when you can't be a pushover. And then he spoke about young men don't try because they're afraid to fail. I think in a lot of ways they don't try because the competition level, you don't have to anymore. It's the participation era where everybody gets something for showing up and trying. My era was what you got was a lesson. If you didn't make it, that meant at that point you hadn't worked hard enough, or it just wasn't your time. There was something to learn from it other than, well, I still got a ribbon out of it. That's just the change in the times. But I do think that those kind of things will often make things easier for the times, but that also creates a softer person at times. I could remember you could be spanked in school, and that wouldn't fly today. But you also had a different respect for your teachers because you didn't see the things that we're seeing now as far as teachers being attacked by students at times. Kind of drifting away from the point. But what he's talking about is young men not trying because they're afraid to fail. Now, try, I like for the acronym, the real you. You got to try something to find out the real you. And I don't mean like heroin or something like that. It means try a sport, an instrument, something that's going to be positive for you. And of course, fail. First attempt in learning. But a lot of times people aren't learning that part of fail. They just look at it as you didn't do it, so you're not good enough. That's not the case. It means you got to work harder at it and find what it is that's going to help you succeed in that certain area. Even if you don't make the team, if you don't get the job, if you don't get that date, it's still going to make you better for having gone through the process. And the next time that opportunity arises in any circumstance in life, there's a possibility that you will get the desired results. But you got to go through the process. You have to struggle through it. And talking to women, whew. What he spoke about, his nephew coming up to a woman and she just said, ugh, that's a real response. And I know a lot of people don't think that that's a real response, but that is a real response these days. Or ew, or being called a creeper, or cringe, or things like that. This is beating down that part of a man or a boy who wants to do what's natural, and it doesn't mean sexual. It means connection. It means I find you attractive, and that even that in a lot of ways is shot down. Well, don't find me attractive. Biologically, you're asking us to turn off a part of our brain we really don't even control. It's like why women may like somebody who's tall, because naturally, biologically, that may say they see more protection and provision through just the sheer size of that person. Asking people to stop being attracted to something that they just are attracted to is, it's going to play a hard part not only on young men, but how young women are received and how they're going to come together to continue to have the nuclear family as we knew it. Maybe that's not what it's supposed to be anymore, but the treatment of young men in a lot of cases is just crazy. And I'd say the treatment of young women too, but I'm not a woman nor have I been a young lady. So I really can't speak to that part. So I'm not dismissing it, but I can only speak to what this man has been through as a young man and what this father, like I am, is speaking to about raising his boys. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on Anthony Mackie, his thoughts? What are your thoughts on everything that I just spoke about? Because I think that there's some validity to it. I took some notes, so you might have to as well. But let me know what your thoughts are. Ace up the sleeve, advice, comment, experience. As always, subscriptions to the channel are free. So I would love to have you guys join and, you know, be a part of these conversations. And sometimes I'll go live and maybe we'll just have a live conversation. But for the meantime, I hope this finds everybody in your place, pursuit, or beginnings of total health, mind, body, and soul. Peace, love, unity, solidarity. And as always, subscriptions and videos. So stick around.